Hey, hi all. Welcome back to the channel. Today, let's discuss about the TypeScript functions. What are these? What are all of types of functions we can define, and the parameter types as well. Then the functions, how we can use the same functions for the different purposes as well. That is called nothing but the function overloading. So we will discuss all of these in today's lecture. And if you are new to channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you never miss any new updates coming from this playlist or this channel. Let's dive into TypeScript functions. So what is meant by function? Function is nothing but a readable, maintainable and reusable code, and it's nothing but a set of statements which actually performs a specific task. So whenever we want to do any specific task, we call the function, right? So for example, if you want to open a model dialog based on the click of button, what you will do, you will add a click event handler to that button, and then you will call a function only, and inside a function you will write some code, you will write some lines of code to open the model dialog, right? So that is nothing but a few lines which performs a tasks for you, right? So that is nothing but a called functions. Functions may have different kinds, like based on uh, the action they perform, right? It can be a different named functions. Sometimes you need anonymous functions as well without name, right? And sometimes you want something from the function as a return type, right? So you will declare function as a return type as well. So there are many types, and there are many variants of parameters as well. So let's dive. First, we will look how we can define a function, right? For defining function, you need to write down a function keyword first, and then write function keyword and then the function name. Function name could be anything, for example, display, right? And then the parenthesis. So in the parenthesis, you will have a params. Let's say param1 of type string, and then param2 of type string, right? And over here you can simply console log, I'll use backtick template string syntax, then the dollar curly brackets param1 space dollar curly bracket param2. So this is how a simple function is, and with the parameter, right? So there can be functions without parameters. Let's say function test without any parameter, and it simply prints us a string like this, right? So these are two variants of functions, with parameter and without parameter. The third one is actually with some return type. So let's create a function like get multiplication for us, right? And over here as well we can pass some parameters, and then the return type could be a number. So now over here we just need to return param1 into param2, right? So this is nothing but a sorry, I need to convert this into number. So this is nothing but a variant of a function which is at last returning something to us, right? So that we can store that result in some variable. Now we have another variant of it, that is nothing but get subtraction, for example, without any parameter, and it gives a number back to me. So let's say 10 minus 5, right? So this is also a variant of it, right? So now the first variant is nothing but an empty parameter function, then we have a parameterized function, then we have a function with return type and with parameters, then we have a function without parameter but with the return type, right? So these are four variants actually, right? Now we'll have another variant of function that is nothing but with the optional parameters as well. For example, get name, I'll call this, right? It will give me a string, and I will have a parameter, let's say str1 of type string, then str2 of type string. But now over here what I need to have this string parameter as an optional. So what I can do, I can give this nullation operator. Okay, so nullation operator is nothing but and question mark. So here TypeScript understands that the str2 is nothing but a optional parameter. So in console log, if I try to print out these two, str1 and str2, at the end we need to return something, right? So as we have given a return type, so return the string, right? Now let's call all functions one by one. You will understand. Let me call test below this without any parameter. Let me call display with some parameters like this, learn and lift, right? And then let me call get multiplication again, which returns a number. So I'll just console log it directly inside that get multiplication method. So here I'll pass 10 comma 5, it will return me 50, right? Now get subtraction method, it is also returning something, so I can directly pass this into the console.log. Here we don't need to pass any parameters as it is directly returning us some value. Now this is the get name, right? So it is also returning names. Let's console.log directly the function name get name, and over here if I pass learn and if I don't pass the second parameter, it won't give me any error because the second parameter is an optional parameter over here, right? So optional parameter example, and if I pass it, then that is okay. If I don't pass it, then the value would be the undefined, right? So let me pass the lift to it. Let's transpile this file into JS file and let's run the JS file. So as you can see, the first print is nothing but this test function log print, and then the second print is nothing but the display functions log print, and the third log is nothing but this multiplication we have called 10 into 5, and the fourth log is nothing but the subtraction of it, 10 minus 5 is nothing but 5, and the last one is actually the optional parameter thing. So if I don't pass, right, if I don't pass it, let's take another variant of it where I do not pass anything, right? Let's see what happens. So as you can see, at last we have an undefined. So now if we don't pass anything, the value of it is undefined. So what if I don't want to pass, but still I want to print something for this string to write? So there we come with the default parameters, right? So this is actually an example of default parameters. Over here, let me write down a function get channel name, right? The same signature we will use over here so that it will save some typing time, string 1 and string 2. So here instead of nullable, we'll directly assign some value that is nothing but a lift to it, right? And let me call this function as is, right? get channel name. So what I'm doing, I am not passing the value for the second parameter because the second parameter has its own value, right? So now let's see how we can pass, another value to it. So I'm passing test for the second parameter. Let's transpile it, ts index.ts and then node.index.js. Now you can see we have a default value over here for str2, and in case we do not pass that value, the default value is taken in place, right? You can see LearnLift has been printed. But now what if I want to pass a value to it? So if I pass the value, this incoming value will get replaced. This value will get replaced by this incoming value, right? So now the test2 will print instead of lift because we explicitly passing value for that particular variable, right? So that's the reason learn and then test has been printed over here, right? So we can have default parameters as well in the TypeScript, right? Then we have, REST parameters. So in the REST parameters, what we can do, we can pass, multiple parameters at once and with one placeholder parameter only, right? Let's see what I mean by that. Uh, let's say display name, for example, right? Maybe display numbers, right? So what I'll do, I'll just use the spread operator over here. Rest operator, and I'll give a parameter with it, and the type of it is actually number array. Okay, so this is nothing but a spread rest. So what I'm doing, I'm resting all the arguments, whatever they are, the n number of arguments, right? And I'm converting them into an array over here. So if you try to access this display, numbers, so what you can do, you can pass number of parameters using comma. Let's say 10 minus 10 minus 10 minus 10 minus 10 minus n number of parameters you can pass, right? And all those parameters will be taken care of, taken care in the, one parameter only. So this is nothing but this is resting all the parameters in one parameter only. Okay, and this is nothing but it is converting into the number array. So if we pass a string to it, it will give us an error. You can see because the parameter is actually the number array, right? If I change it to the string array, then I can pass string values by giving commas, right? So what it actually does, it actually splits them by comma and convert it into the number at the runtime only, right? So that I can directly num dot for is vi, and I can directly print those values console.log, right? V. So I can directly print those values, right? So if I transpile this and if I run it, you can see the 10 10 10 has been printed over here. So I'm looping through each and every number and console logging it, right? So the same thing happened over here as well. So this is nothing but an example of REST parameters, right? So we have seen optional parameter, right? We have seen default parameters and we have seen the REST parameters. Now let's look into the anonymous functions, like how they works actually. So I'll give two examples of anonymous function. The first one is without any name. So let's say where msg is equal to function, right? And I'll just return LearnLift over here, and let's call message like this, right? So now let me transpile this. So you can see LearnLift has been printed over here. So what it is doing, this is nothing but an anonymous function which actually giving us some result, and this function doesn't have any name, right? So if the function doesn't have any names, we can have those, we can call those functions as an anonymous functions. Now let's say the another variant of it with the parameters, right? Let's say message1, then param1 as a string, then param2 as a string. So this is another variant of parameterized anonymous functions. So let me use template string over here, param1 space, right, param2. It is returning us both params. So now let's pass those params like this. I'll just like this, right? And then expected, sorry, so we need to call the message1 over here, right? So now let's console log or maybe transpile the index.ts file and run the node index.ts. You can see the LearnLift has been printed over here. So this is without params, right? And this is the example of with params for the anonymous functions, right? So anonymous functions are nothing but the functions which doesn't have any names, right? Now let's look at how we can create a function from the function constructor. So how we create an array, right? So where arr is equal to new array, right? So this is a constructor which already has in the browser, or maybe JavaScript provides us that, or TypeScript is nothing but a JavaScript only. So like this we have a string as well, new string, right? So we'll have a new boolean, right? We have a new boolean as well constructor, then we have new event constructor, right? Like this we have a function constructor as well, right? So inside a function constructor we can give parameters a comma b, right? And then we will give the whatever action it performs actually as a third parameter. So it has arguments which are nothing but a string arguments, and will give, as you can see, right? So this is rest, this is spreading, sorry, resting it, right? So as we have learned how to rest the parameters, so we have given comma based parameters, and the type of it is actually number only, and over here we have uh, you know uh, again like doing the same thing over here, but the parameter type is actually string array. The last is actually a return thing. So we can do a into b, right? And now when I call this function, it will return me the multiplication. So let me call it and pass some parameters like 5 comma 2. It will return me 10, right? So let's transpile this file again, tsc index.ts and node index.js. You can see 10 has been printed over here, right? So this is how we can create functions from the function constructor as well. Let's dive into another variant of it, of functions, like that is nothing but recursive functions, right? So there are two variants of it, recursive functions. The first one is anonymous recursive, and the second one is named functions with the recursive thing, right? So how we can do that? Let's understand the first anonymous recursive functions. So it starts with parenthesis, and inside parenthesis we need to give function. Okay. Then the function which actually has some value, or maybe is returning some action for us. So let's say where num is equal to 10 maybe, and it's console logging the num value, and then at the end we need to call that function, we need to invoke that function, right? So if you look into the jQuery as well, so jQuery also has its syntax. If we want to create some widgets, so which should be, which should invoke themselves at once only and at the time of load only, then we can make, the anonymous recursive functions, and we can add our functionality over here inside a function, and then we can invoke it at once only, right, at the time of load, so that whatever functionality is written over here should be available for the entire session, right? So that's the reason. So now if I transpile the file again, right, here we don't need to call it because it is invoking itself right over here. So let's see tsc, then we'll use node to run index.js. As you can see, it is printing 10 for us, right? It is printing 10 for us. So I'll just, comment out all of these so that, you will see the result properly in the console terminal window. Yeah. So now you can see the 10 has been printed over here. So let's understand how named functions we can, have named recursive functions as well, right? So let's say I wanted to find out a factorial of it. So let's say find factorial uh, number maybe, and here I'm passing num as a number parameter, right? And over here I'll just give condition like if num is less than or equal to 0, right? I just need to return 1 over here, and in the else part let me return the num, right, into, I'll need to call the same method find factorial number, and over here I need to pass num minus 1, right? So this is how, and when I console log uh, find factorial number of 5, it will print me something. So let's see what it prints us. It prints us 120, right? And 120 is nothing but the factorial of 5. So what has been done over here, right? So this is anonymous recursive function, and this is named recursive function we are looking into, right? And recursive nothing but, calling functions inside of, calling the same function inside itself only, maybe, or invoking the function inside itself, right? This is how recursive functions are. Then we have, parameter destructuring. Okay, how we can destructure some parameters. Let's understand that as well. Suppose if we have, let me comment this out, right? Parameter destructuring. So let's say I have a function named display, right? It has some parameters. Let's say x as a string and y, maybe, the second parameter is maybe object, right? So let's create a type for us. So let's say type car is equal to, let's say id as a number and make as a string, right? And I'll create a variable, for example z of type, maybe z of type car, right, is equal to, I'll just write down some properties, id 101 comma make could be string 2025, right? So now I don't need all those properties from this object or from this z variable. So whatever object is getting passed as a parameter over here, I want some of the properties of it, right? So how I can access those? So there is another way, right? So we can take entire object and we can access the properties of it using name inside function, like the object dot id, object dot make, or maybe the parameter dot id or parameter dot make. Using that we can access that. But what if I want to read it at the parameter level itself? So over here we'll have um, we'll have an opportunity to fetch some of properties at the parameter level only. So now here I have declared a parameter of type car, right? And I'm destructuring it. Like how I can destructure, right? So you just need to write down the two curly brackets, and then over here I can access id, I can access make, right? So what I am doing, I'm pulling out id and make out of this car variables, like whatever variable we are getting over here. So let me call this display method over here, right? And I'll pass z as a parameter to it. And the first, let's say we don't have any first parameter, right? So I'm passing z as a parameter to it. So you can see that the parameter is of type car, right? And our variable is also of type car only. And what we are doing, we are destructuring it from here. This is another way. And then if I console log it, I'm using template string. Let's say the first parameter is id, then space, the second parameter is make, right? So let's say I have console log it. Let's transpile it. Let's run it. You can see 101 and 2025 has been printed over here, right? I can do that over here as well, or maybe I can param of type car, and right. So what I'll do, I'll create a variable of it, id, and then comma make is equal to param. Like this as well, I can destructure it. So if you again transpile it and run it, you can see the same result. So here what I am doing, I'm doing the same thing but inside a method, right? And over here we were doing the same thing but inside a parameter itself, right? This is the difference, parameter destructuring. So this is how parameter destructuring works. Then we have another variant that is nothing but arrow functions. So arrow function is very useful everywhere nowadays. Arrow functions are getting used. So you just need to learn how arrow functions works and what is the syntax of it. So let's understand the arrow functions as well. Arrow functions starts, let me comment this out, right? So arrow functions are nothing but functions which can be assigned to any variable, right? So now let's see, I have an arrow function, so I need to create a variable of it, const let's say make is equal to, right? I need to give the parenthesis, then this fat arrow kind of thing, right? And then return or maybe console log something like test, right? So this is how I can make the arrow, and I can directly call the make method over here, right? So let's see what it does. You can see test has been printed over here. So this is the simple arrow function without params, right? Without params and return type. So let's understand how we can create a function with the params as well, right? So let's convert this method into a single parameter method. Let's say make one. And if we have a single parameter, we can get rid of this parenthesis as well, right? name, and then over here in the console log we can print the name as well. So we can give type annotation over here, name as a string like this, right? So if you want to give the type annotation, then maybe you need to wrap this inside a parenthesis. So if you wrap this inside parenthesis, then only you can give the type annotations. But if you do not wish to give the type annotations because you already know what type of the variable it is or the parameter it is, you can directly omit the parenthesis. It will print us the learn. Okay, you can see the learn has been printed over here. Now the another variant is if you want to return something from it, right? So if you want to return, then what could be the syntax of it, right? We'll just make it as a make to, then I want to return something, then I need to use the curly brackets in that case if I want to return something. So let's say return name only. Okay, now make to, I'm passing name and I'm returning name, right? So let's call the make to over here. You can see learn has been printed, right? Make one and make two. Did I save it? Yeah, make test learn. Acha, I need to call this in the console.log because it is returning the name, but I'm not storing that name anywhere. So let's see. So you can see the learn has been printed over here because it has returned some name and I have console log it over here, right? The another variant of it is actually multiple parameters, right? So we can have multiple parameters, but in case of multiple parameters, we can use the parenthesis. We need to use the parenthesis, right? Name 1 and name 2. And over here, I'll just return the name 1 plus name 2 like this, right? And if I give comma and give the second name in the make 3, you can see the learn lift should be printed over here. The learn and lift has been printed over here, right? So this is how multiple parameters you can use in the arrow functions. So this is how all variants of it, the arrow functions, right? And the last but not the least is actually the function overloading. Okay, so how we can overload particular functions. So let's see that as well in action. For function overloading, you need to keep in mind some of the concepts of it, like how, like on what basis you can overload the methods, right? The first one is, let's understand one by one. Let me comment this out, the arrow functions. So first we'll understand the data type of the parameters. Okay, so let's discuss the data type, or maybe I'll just create two functions. Const make one is equal to, I'll directly use the console.log test, or maybe the name, right? So the name of type string, and I'll directly console log this name over here, right? The same method I'll use, it won't be applicable in arrow functions, so we just need to write down the normal functions. So function make, it will have name as a string, and then I'll just console log name over here, The same function I can again create with the same name with the different parameters, parameter type. Okay, so let's get a number over here. Right, so as you can see, the same function with the different type of parameters we have called, we actually defined over here. The parameter name should be different, so let's see, here we have passed name as a string, and here maybe roll number we can pass, right? So if I pass roll number, function make, right? So what it is saying, duplicate function implementation, right? So let's see how we can overload the function. Roll number and school name maybe string. Okay, CHOOL, double OL, right? Now the last but not least, we'll need to discuss the function overloading as well. Let's see how we can overload functions. So there are actually three kind of rules we have while defining a function, while creating a function definition, right? With the same name. So there should be some differences between them, right? The first thing is data type of the parameter should be different. The second thing is the number of parameters should be different. The third thing is the sequence of the parameters should be different, right? So let's try how we can create a function definitions. So let's say I have a function which is actually a make, let's say, with a parameter like param one as a string, and it returns me string, right? So this is a function. And let's say another function with make with the same name, right? And I have param1 of type string and param let's say 2 of type string, and it returns me string only, right? So what we did over here, we have created two methods with the same name but the different parameters, right? And it is returning a string only. So now as you can see, function implementation is missing or not immediately following the declarations, right? So this is how it actually gives us error, but that is negligible error, right? So now if I want to integrate these two methods, or maybe we can integrate another variant of it, the sequence of parameters also, right? Let's create the same definition with different parameter types. Okay, number as well. So this is also another variant, and the sequence of parameter, let's say maybe param2 first, and then comma param1, and this could be a type of number only, maybe number, and over here number, right? So if now let's say I want to write down these functions, right? So how I can do, let's say function make. So if I do like this, then I have variants of it, right? I have multiple variants. I can pass, I can use this variant, I can use this variant, and I can use this, or I can use this variant. Any variant I can use. So let's say param 1 I need to pass. So I'll pass, I can write param 1 of type string, and it actually returns param 1, right? So this has been implemented, right? So now let's implement the same thing with a param 2. Let's say I have a method with param 2, and it returns me param 1 plus param 2, right? So I am actually implementing this method as well, which at the end returns me the string values only, right? Let's say I want to implement this method as well, so I can do param 1 as a number and param 2 as a number, and you see it is giving me error because number is not assignable to type string. So over here I can make the return type as a number as well, right? So now what I did, I have implemented this method, the third method over here, right? So these are all function definitions which has 3 overloads, as you can see over here, right? Plus 3 overloads. So we are overloading the methods with the same name, and but there are some differences with the sequence of parameter, with the number of parameters, and the parameter data type itself, right? So based on that, we'll have, if I look at this and hover on this, right, the overload signature is not compatible with its implementation signature, right? Why it is giving that error? Because we did not implemented this, we have implemented this method, right? So as you can see, this method has plus 3 overloads, right, with the 2 parameters. So this is how you can actually call, or you can create a method definition somewhere with the same names, and you can call those methods as per your need based on the parameters and the return types, right? So this is how all about functions in the TypeScript. I have covered all of possible variants of functions, possible variants of parameters, right? And we have covered parameter destructuring, and we have covered the function overloading as well. Okay, so I hope you like this video, and if it is so, then do not forget to like the video and share it with your friends, right? And then do not forget to subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon so that you never miss any new updates coming from this channel. Thank you all guys. Let's meet in next tutorial.